The Daily Telegraph have reported that Crystal Palace want to sign Brennan Johnson in the January transfer window, but various other reports are stating it is unlikely that Johnson will leave Spurs in the winter window and more likely the summer window. Reports are stating that the club are set to start talks with right-back Pedro Porro about a new deal in 2026. Reports in Italy are stating that goalkeeper Vicario wants a return to Serie A and he wants to move to Inter Milan. And Sweden boss Graham Potter has spoken out about Kulusevski. He met him last week and Potter has said he is confident that he will be a part of his matchday squad in the March international break. Hi everyone, hope you're well. Chris Cowlin here. This is another edition of Tottenham News where I'll be going through all of the latest Spurs news, rumours and reports. If you're watching on YouTube, please do hit that subscribe button, like, share and comment below. And if you're listening to this on an audio platform, please do hit that follow button and leave a review if you can. So let's get straight into it and let's talk about the embargoed press conference that was released on Friday evening. Thomas Frank took part in his press conference on Friday at Hotspur Way and he said Tottenham will spend money in the January transfer window, and he also stated that he wants the signings in early, and he also stated he is bored of talking about Dominic Solanke's return date, but he is training on the grass. Now, Caught Offside have just reported that Spurs are ready to offload midfielder Yves Bissouma in the January transfer window. La Gazzetta dello Sport have just reported that Tottenham Hotspur goalkeeper Vicario wants to join Inter Milan next summer. They don't want to pay more than 20 million euros to sign the Italian international. The report also states that Vicario wants a return to Serie A in the summer, so Inter Milan will have to negotiate with Spurs as the goalkeeper's contract runs out in June 2028. The Daily Telegraph have just reported that Crystal Palace are exploring an ambitious January swoop for Tottenham Hotspur star Brennan Johnson. Manager Oliver Glasner is eager to strengthen his attacking options as the Eagles look to push for European qualifications in the second half of the 25-26 campaign, and various reports are stating with Tottenham's schedule and whilst they are still in the Champions League, it would be unlikely that Brennan Johnson would be allowed to leave Tottenham in the winter window. Former Premier League star and TV pundit Paul Merson has predicted that Nottingham Forest will beat Spurs 2-1 at the City Ground on Sunday in the Premier League, 2 p.m. kickoff. He said Nottingham Forest have now become a little bit inconsistent. After that impressive win against Liverpool, Sean Dyche's team have lost 2 out of the next 3 league games. Tottenham, on the other hand, have had consecutive wins at home. It's been a good sign if you're a Spurs fan because they have struggled to get results on home turf this season. Merson then went on to say if they don't get a result against Forest, Tottenham could end up staying in the bottom half of the Premier League table. But if they win and Chelsea lose, they have the chance to go above the Blues. That's how tight it is on points right now in the table. Madness when you think of it. Now, at the time of making this episode, there have been 2 results in the Premier League on Saturday. Chelsea 2, Everton 0 and Liverpool 2, Brighton 0. Now, Spurs are still in 11th place in the Premier League table. We have 22 points from the opening 15 games, and a win at the City Ground against Nottingham Forest on Sunday could take Spurs as high as 7th on goal difference. Now, a report has just been published by Team Talk all about defender Pedro Porro. They have stated he and his camp have had talks with Spurs about a new deal. The club's hierarchy have informed Porro that talks should accelerate next year, with his current deal due to expire in 2028. The 26-year-old is currently earning less than £100,000 a week, and he is due for a significant pay rise at Tottenham Hotspur. Pedro Porro has again proven to be a big player under Thomas Frank, although with Jed Spence's arrival, there has been more sense of a rotation, but Spurs want the Spaniard to extend his deal at the club. However, sources can reveal that Pedro Porro's former club, Manchester City, are keeping tabs on his situation, as they would be willing to bring him back to the Etihad Stadium. Spurs are aware of the need to tie down Pedro Porro, and now with City circulating, that will be likely that things will accelerate. Sweden boss Graham Potter has been talking about injured Tottenham Hotspur star Dejan Kulusevski and his injury. Potter said, "I met Dejan last week and I am aware that he is fighting back from his injury. I had a good conversation with him. He has had a really complicated injury and that is the truth. He is on his way back now and he is also in a good place. But when you are close, you can have setbacks and you can have frustrating days when things don't go your way that you want, because it is a long process. He's in good spirits, though, and in a good place right now and desperate to come back and help." Potter then went on to say he is desperate to be included. I am convinced of that he will be back in the March international squad with Sweden. That is my feeling based on having spoken to him and understanding where he is right now. I think that is the last part of the rehab that he needs to go through. My experience when someone has been out for a long time like this is that it can be a bit up and down and frustrating, but he is in a good place. I think the problem with football and looking ahead to March is nobody knows for sure where he is going to be. If you can predict that, you are a genius. It is about being patient with him and supporting him. I'm confident he will be there in March. Now, my thoughts on everything in this episode. Let's start by talking about Brennan Johnson, and I've mentioned this in a previous episode as well. I'm not at all surprised by the various reports stating that with Tottenham's schedule and the Champions League games as well, games are coming thick and fast. There's no way Spurs are going to let Brennan Johnson leave in the January window. In the summer window, yes, I wouldn't be surprised. Never surprised about, players going out the door, because this is what happens in football, especially when a new manager comes in. They want to put their real stamp on the squad and they want to bring their players in. And let's be frank and honest about it. Brennan Johnson hasn't had many minutes under Thomas Frank so far this season, but the minutes that he has had under Thomas Frank, in my opinion, he has really taken his opportunity, scoring a number of goals. So should he get more game time under Thomas Frank? I actually think he should. But I don't think Spurs ever like to offload players anyway in a January transfer window. January really for Tottenham is about, giving us, real strength in the second part of the season in terms of being an impact player or really strengthening the squad. Having said that, Yves Bissouma, I can or would expect him to go out the door in January if Spurs can get a decent fee for him. But let's be honest, he hasn't been a part of Thomas Frank's plans anyway so far this season. And of course, he's been injured. But before that, he was left at home for the Super Cup final due to persistent lateness. So that is not a good thing. Paul Merson predicting a 2-1 Nottingham Forest win. I tell you what, Spurs have had a really good and positive week this last 7 to 10 days. That draw at Newcastle and the wins against Brentford and the win against Slavia Prague. And it was the way that we played in both of those games as well, those home games. And I think the only disappointing thing about both of those home games is that we should have scored more goals. We scored 5 in those 2 matches. It probably should have been 10 or more. And that is the only negative for me. And that is a really, really positive thing. And it's been a really positive week. So hopefully it can continue. Paul Merson, of course, is going to go for a Nottingham Forest win, isn't he? But, I'm hoping that Spurs can nick a win there, get the 3 points, move up to 7th in the Premier League. And, it's very, very tight in there. 7th doesn't sound very good. We're 11th at the moment, but it's extremely tight in there. You put a run of 2 or 3 wins together in the Premier League and you're suddenly finding yourself in a really good position. So all Tottenham need to keep doing, I don't know, I say all they need to do, but just keep winning, keep concentrating on these games. We've got some tough games coming up after the Forest one as well. Liverpool at home next week. And then, of course, Crystal Palace away. So they are 2 tough matches. And, of course, Liverpool are back to winning ways as well. And Liverpool have now moved up to 6th in the table. Now, reports in Italy are stating that Vicario wants to join Inter Milan next summer. This is going to be a really interesting one because, of course, Vicario, I know a lot of people that absolutely adore and love Vicario. His shot stopping is absolutely fantastic. His footwork could be a lot better. And, some of his play, some of his catching abilities, punching abilities could be a lot better as well. This is going to be a really, really interesting one for me, whether we will replace the goalkeeper in the summer of 2026. As I said, with the two sporting directors now, Johan Langer and Fabio Prasci, and of course Thomas Frank, they've all said that 2 out of the 3 need to agree on who they sign, which players they bring in. But I wouldn't be at all surprised at all to see Vicario leave. That wouldn't surprise me whatsoever, particularly a move for him going back to his country, Italy. It wouldn't surprise me whatsoever, but it's all about Tottenham planning and planning well. If we know that this is going to happen now for the summer, then they need to start planning and organising who they will be bringing in, whether Anton Enquiries, whether he will get a chance or whether we will bring in a new number one. Let's wait and see. And it's funny because you talk to, well, I certainly talk to a lot of journalists and I ask them a lot of questions about their opinions about incomings and outgoings. And, everyone says the same thing. Just got to wait and see. And certainly with the new structure, with the ownership as well, with the Lewis family, we have to wait and see on how ambitious they want to be, on how big that they want to be, and whether we do things differently, whether we bring in players earlier than normal in transfer windows, whether we spend more money, whether the wage structure really changes. There is a lot to wait on and be patient on. And I know some people, a handful of people that I spoke to, are saying, we're going to go big in the January transfer window. I never, ever use this as an excuse, but January is extremely difficult to bring in players. Thomas Frank has come out and said he expects the club to spend money and he wants the players in early. I tell you what, that's music to our ears. We want to see it early on in the window. And, certainly if we're in a good place in the Champions League as well. And, we've got to be winning matches, climb up that Premier League table, do well in the Champions League, and let's hope that we have a good run or even win the FA Cup in 2026. So a lot to play for still in this season. And, Thomas Frank, the management, the staff, they need help. And of course, there might be another change at backroom in the backroom staff, with Matt Wells possibly leaving for the MLS after the Nottingham Forest game. So watch that space as well. I keep saying on these episodes about how much change that Spurs have had in the last 12 months, but all of these changes still keep happening. A lot of change, but I suppose when a manager comes in, there is always going to be a lot of change, and there is some change in football, but not so much at a club, a football club, in the 12 months that we've certainly had, this last year or so. Graham Potter talking about Dejan Kulusevski. Long-term injuries, they are very, very difficult. Graham Potter said that he spoke to Kulusevski last week, and he hopes that he will be included in the March international squad. Now, if that is the case and he will be in the March international squad, I would hope that he would have been back playing for Tottenham for at least, a good 4-6 weeks or so, before he's rushing off on international duty. So let's watch this space. Thomas Frank said some time ago that he expected Kulusevski to be back before the turn of the year 2026. Well, we're only 2 weeks away from that. So let's hope that we see Kulusevski back sometime in the near future. Pedro Porro on possibly signing a new contract. I know some of the players are on a decent wage. He is earning under £100,000 a week. It's been reported by Team Talk and various others. They're also stating that Manchester City would be keen on taking him back to the Etihad Stadium. This is all about the meetings that are going to take place with Thomas Frank, with Fabio Prasci, Johan Langer, Vinay Venkatesham, and others, I'm sure. But I don't think there's any way that Spurs will want Pedro Porro walking out the door. He is one of the players that I think he's played more minutes than any other player under Thomas Frank so far. And I think that tells you all you need to know. Spurs will not want him leaving for sure. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching on YouTube, please do hit that subscribe button, like, share and comment below. And if you're listening to this on an audio platform, please do hit that follow button and leave a review if you can. Have a great weekend. Stay safe and well. Keep smiling and come on, you Spurs.